Hello everyone, back tuning in today's video, doing the Sunday Roundup. As always on a Sunday we get various things together and see what shows. So we're going to start off with solar activity. We'll look at what's happening with the oceans, look at Siberian snow cover and Arctic sea ice extent as well. And also, of course, the weather for the next week to 10 days. It's hot today and it's going to be staying hot in the days ahead as well. So a little bit of a heat wave actually going on at the moment. We'll start off, however, for the GWV Sunday Roundup today looking at solar activity. So this is the solar disk on our side of the disk today from solarham.net. You can find a link to that website on the links page, of course. I've got a few sunspots actually. So solar activity, however, is at very low levels. We've got a sunspot just there and region of sunspots over there. They look quite small. As I say, solar activity today is at very low levels, as it has been for many days actually over the past few weeks and months. This is regards to this daily solar activity tracker. It's been updated by our good friend James Ackrill. We keep this updated for you every week to monitor what solar activity is doing on a week-by-week basis. So when we did last week's Sunday Roundup, we was actually having some spotless days with no sunspots at all. Sunspots have increased a little bit, and we just saw on the solar disk we have got a few sunspots at the moment today. So these orange spots indicate that the sunspots are increasing a little bit, but these are still at very low levels now. So the last time we had sort of a moderate increase in sunspots was back at the start of April, just here, where we had quite a big push up just very briefly, and then of course crashed down again because we couldn't sustain that sort of level of sunspots for very long. However, we are getting enough sunspot activity at the moment just to lift these trend lines, which are the thick green and thick red lines, just to lift those up ever so slightly. But overall, the trend is still downwards. This is where we was back in September, of course, where we see that we're at a higher level with the trend lines than where we are now. So over the past sort of 9 months or so, we have been trending downwards with sunspots and solar activity. Whilst of course it's not a linear process, so you do get these increases as you go along. The trend is down. We'll be reaching solar minimum in around 18 months. Having a look at the oceans, this is what's going on in the Pacific and the Atlantic Oceans at the moment. Now, there's no sign of El Nino, and quite the reverse actually. We are getting a little bit of cooling beginning to take place over towards the eastern part of the equatorial Pacific. There's Peru just there, Indonesia is over there, and the ocean space in between is the equatorial ocean, and that's where we get these ENSO events, either El Nino or La Nina, taking place. A couple of months ago, it looked like we was going to go into El Nino this year, but that signal really is backing away very strongly now, and if anything, it swings very slightly the other way. I'm not expecting a cold event, but I'm not expecting a La Nina. We probably are just going to stay at ENSO neutral through the second half of the year. We'll be doing the next ENSO update on Saturday next week, so we'll find out then all the very latest. In the northern part of the Pacific Ocean, it actually looks quite cool up there with the ocean temperatures. That's probably one of the things that's stopping has stopped the El Nino from getting going. Over in the Atlantic, we've got a very striking pattern. The cold blob has returned in the northern part of the Atlantic Ocean. I spoke about this, I think it was last week. So sea surface temperature anomalies around Newfoundland and out into the central part of the northern Atlantic Ocean, this area just here, they have turned very cold actually at the moment. Underneath it though, we've got quite a warm area through the tropical Atlantic Ocean, so quite a north-south split in terms of those sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic. As I explained last week, the tropical Atlantic is where we get hurricanes and storms going in the summer and into the autumn. So if the sea surface temperature anomalies are warmer than average in this region, and we can see that they are, then that might imply that we're going to get a fairly active hurricane season. One of the things that would negate that would be if we had an El Nino going on, because you don't normally get active hurricane seasons with El Nino. But it looks like El Nino is not going to happen, so I suspect we might get quite a strong hurricane season this year. It'll be interesting to see how that works out. And talking of the Atlantic, by the way, we will be doing the NAO forecast, North Atlantic Oscillation forecast, for the winter of 2017-18. in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks today. That's based on sea surface temperature anomalies in the Atlantic during the month of May. So our first little sort of journey towards the winter forecast will begin actually in a couple of weeks' time when we do the NAO forecast. So keep an eye out for that 2 weeks today. Having a look at what's happening across Siberia in terms of the snow cover. So we've still got some snow cover actually across northern parts of the Siberian plain up here. Scandinavia pretty much thawed out now, away from the very, very far northern regions or mountainous regions. This is probably still a little bit above average though for the middle of June for northern parts of Siberia and Russia, this snow cover that we see just here. So this is going to go in the next week or two. It will go completely snow free across the Siberian plain within the next couple of weeks, but at the moment the snow cover is still hanging on, still clinging on in the very far north of Russia and Siberia. In terms of Arctic sea ice, so earlier in the year we had quite a low level of Arctic sea ice, to say the least. This blue line just here shows that we was well below average. We was under the trend, the 30-year trend or the 10-year trend, which is this grey line just here, and we was also under 2012, indicated by this green dash line just here. 2012 is the death spiral year in terms of Arctic sea ice. You can see the way Arctic sea ice collapsed through 2012, and we have that tremendous thaw taking place in terms of Arctic sea ice through the summer and into the autumn of 2012. So we started the season underneath 2012, but now, and I have been saying that I expected this to happen, we have sort of caught up with 2012, if you like. So you can see the way this blue line and the way the green dashed line have kind of converged just there. I suspect what's going to happen over the next month or two is that we'll probably see the Arctic sea ice for this year, 2017, increasing compared to 2012. So in the end, we may get a death spiral, you never know, but I'd be surprised if we went down to sort of level that we did in 2012 with Arctic sea ice. We'll probably do something a bit like that. We'll have to wait and see. But we've caught up with 2012 now, and it's very probable, I would suspect, that we will overtake 2012 in terms of Arctic sea ice in the not too distant future. Have a look at the Arctic oscillation then, and this is the observed and forecast chart. We can see from the black line where we've been with the Arctic oscillation, red lines at the end where we're forecasting to go via the GFS ensembles. Remember, this is just an index that's reflecting the state of the atmosphere. It isn't driving anything, it just tells you what the atmosphere is doing. We can go right way back to the spring and even to the end of winter with this. This is February just here. We can see back through February into March, the Arctic oscillation was generally in a positive state. Things changed in April when we went negative, and that negativity stayed with us through May as well. And went a little bit positive there right at the end of May, but even into June, the Arctic oscillation stayed in sort of negative territory through the opening week or so. However, now we've gone positive, and it looks like we're being forecast to stay positive with the Arctic oscillation as well, going through to the start of July. So, as I've been explaining, the Arctic and North Atlantic oscillations sort of run in 2 or 3 month blocks most of the time. So we had about 4 months of positivity of the Arctic oscillation coinciding with the winter, started in December and went on into March and even into the start of April. Then we had a couple of months, about 2 months, perhaps a bit more, of generally negativity of the Arctic Oscillation. I suspect now we are shifting into a positive phase, and this might carry us through to the remainder of the summer. Actually, possibly we'll begin to go negative again towards the end of the summer, but I suspect the next couple of months might well be in a positive state of the Arctic Oscillation. If that's right, then we're probably going to be looking at a fairly warmish summer, actually, with the Azores high tending to be quite an important play. You certainly see it's a strong signal from now through to the end of the GFS ensembles, which goes 384 hours away into the start of July. Strong signal for the Arctic Oscillation to be in its positive phase, which means we're strengthening the Azores high. In winter, this will be a signal for westerly winds and wet and windy weather. In summer, it means you're strengthening the Azores high, probably lifting the jet stream northwards as well, and it's normally quite a positive signal if you want warm and dry weather in the summer. The North Atlantic Oscillation is same idea. The black line here tells us where we've been with the NAO. The red line's at the end where the GFS ensembles are forecasting the NAO to go. And same sort of thing, really. So through March and into start of April, we was positive with the NAO. Then in the second half of April and through into May, we went negative. We stayed negative through to the start of June. Very gradually through June, we've been lifting the NAO up, and the forecast is to keep it in positive territory. So we've got both the indexes going positive, and this is a signal, I think, for a strengthened Azores high. The Azores high is what brings us summer, essentially, because it throws those ridges over us, and then the ridges build into areas of high pressure. They drift eastwards into the continent and pull up hotter southerly winds. So the Azores high is where it all starts, sort of thing. And these indexes are really telling us that the Azores high is in quite a strengthened state. So these were GFS temperature and precipitation ensembles next couple of weeks. The red line here is a 30-year upper air temperature average. Now we're very significantly warmer than average at the moment. We're staying so for the next few days, certainly, and even to the end of a week, temperatures are actually picking up. So I think we're going to get the peak of the temperatures probably on Thursday, when we might get temperatures going above 32 degrees. Over 90 Fahrenheit. We'll get close to 90 Fahrenheit, something like London, though, today, I would have thought. Now, after that, into the weekend, we're seeing the temperatures very gradually sliding downwards, but they're still, you'll notice, they're still staying generally above the red line. So they're still staying above average. It's just it cools down a bit over the weekend and goes closer to average. You'll feel a bit fresher at the weekend as well. Beyond that, there's a lot of scatter, but there are several members of the GFS ensembles through the closing days of June that are going quite hot again, actually. So we might be setting up quite a hot spell here, quite a prolonged spell of warm, hot weather. We'll have to wait and see. For precipitation, a lot of dry weather through the rest of this week. These spikes just here, precipitation spikes see just here, are probably kind of scattered thunderstorms, showers being triggered just by the heat and humidity of the situation, really. But they will, I think, be very hit and miss. I'm not really seeing much of a signal for prolonged downpours or wet weather this week. We go through into the weekend and then on into next week, which is this period just here. And we're probably getting more precipitation spikes coming through at that point, but still nothing really definitive until we get through to the start of July. That's this point just here, when the rainfall spikes do begin to increase quite a bit then. However, that's at the very extended range of the GFS ensembles. It's not to be relied upon. And I think essentially we can say that for the next week to 10 days, we are looking at a lot of very warm, if not quite hot weather, and fairly dry too. So this is backed up by the temperature anomalies. This is going from the 18th through to the 26th of June, coming out very significantly and substantially warmer than average, not just for the UK, but for most central and western parts of Europe. We're talking for the UK about temperature anomalies between around, say, 2 to 6 degrees above average, so around 4 degrees above average in the next week, which is substantial warm, because it's a warm time of year. Anyway, we're into June now, so you go 4 degrees above average in June. You are looking at really quite a heat wave. Going further south into Europe, actually the anomalies are closer to 6 to 8 degrees above average through France, Spain and Portugal. They're having a really hot summer so far down across Iberia. Precipitation anomalies for next week, they're coming out more or less drier than average. So hot and dry really sums it up. Yes, we will have these hit and miss thunderstorms developing, particularly I would have thought focused on Thursday, but there's no real trigger within the atmosphere to be generating extensive thunder this week. So yes, you might get a downpour, you might get a torrential storm, but I think they'll be hit and miss. No sign of a classic sort of thundery type scenario at this stage. You never know, of course, because temperatures are hot, and if we can get some sort of heat low coming out of Biscay, then we'll be in business. But there's no real sign of that happening at the moment. So this is how the GFS is looking for Thursday. Then we've got high pressure over Central Europe then across Germany, pulling up these hot southerly winds. There's the upper air temperature, so we're getting close to bringing the 20 Celsius isotherm up across, certainly towards the channel, not getting towards the south coast, but it is heading up towards the channel. That's really hot air, of course, when you get 20 Celsius isotherm. As it is, it's hot enough because we've got the 10 and 15 Celsius isotherms across the country. So I think we're seeing temperatures on Thursday at or maybe even above 32 degrees Celsius. Now we go through to Friday, and we're trying to re-establish a cooler, fresher westerly flow. But these areas of low pressure, probably because the jet stream is fairly weak, these areas of low pressure are not coming in with any sort of conviction, so they're not sweeping away this hot air very quickly. All that's happening is that the heat is just kind of draining away a little bit on a day-by-day basis. So that's how we go into Saturday. And yes, we are establishing a fresher and slightly cooler westerly wind then. You can quite clearly see that by the direction of the isobars. But even so, it's not a quick push away of that heat. It's just slowly seeing the heat disappearing, and we're still sort of keeping high pressure very close to the south as well, so there may be showery rain in the north over the weekend. I'm not too sure how much we'll get down in the south. There's the upper air temperatures by Sunday, and they are cooler. They're still warm, but they are cooler compared to the heat that we have on Thursday, so it will be a little bit more comfortable, I think, with the temperature by next weekend. Beyond that, running up to day 10, so this takes us to Monday 26th of June and then on to Tuesday 27th of June, and you'll notice that this area of low pressure is becoming a bit stuck to the west of the island, and what that's doing, it's allowing ridging to re-establish to the south and east of us. So this is having a go at bringing back the hot air from the south again as we go through into the closing days of June. We finish up on day 10, which is Wednesday 28th of June. Again, we're trying to bring these cooler winds in from the Atlantic and turn things more unsettled, but it's coming up against this area of high pressure that's developing to the east, and that again is bringing up hot air from the south. So it may well be that the closing days of June might have another go at re-establishing the heat. Actually, there's the upper air temperatures looking really quite hot once again. Bit of a battle going on there between the Atlantic and the cooler air in the Atlantic and the hot air associated with the ridging to the east, and that does look a little bit more conducive to producing thunder perhaps at that point as well. And then finally, just have a look at the ECWF. So this is how things are looking with the ECWF on Thursday. Again, we're looking at quite a hot day then, and then we bring these cooler winds down from the northwest. You notice the low pressure is close to Scotland, so it'll be more unsettled next weekend in the north. But in the south, we're close to the Azores High and the Ridge, really, so still quite fine, I would have thought, in the south into next weekend, albeit the temperatures are cooling down to a more comfortable level. Still warm, but more comfortable. Into the final days of June, so this takes us to Monday 26th of June, when this area of low pressure is deepening actually in the Atlantic just here. It's deeper than the GFS has it. So instead of stalling that low pressure in the Atlantic like the GFS does, the ECM actually brings this area of low pressure in across the country. So by day 10, Wednesday 28th of June. We are looking significantly more unsettled and cooler then. That's turning properly unsettled with westerly winds coming back in from off the Atlantic. But remember, at this point, the GFS is stalling this low pressure. It's actually stalling it out to west of Ireland and building the ridge to the east, which brings the hot air back up from the south. So I've got a little bit of discrepancy as we get through towards the 8 to 10 day time frame, whether we'll pull the hot air back up from the south or whether we'll bring cooler air in from off the Atlantic. But before that, we can say we are in for a lot of very warm weather over the coming few days. This week is going to be hot. We get through to the weekend and it will begin to cool down a bit. Don't be expecting things to go very cool. Just gradually sliding the temperature down closer to average, but probably still warmer than average even into next weekend, and maybe a little bit more unsettled up in the north, but certainly nothing definitive in terms of rain or thunder in the days ahead. Right, that's all for now. Hope you enjoyed the Sunday Roundup this week. We'll do it again next week. Also, next Sunday, we'll have the first seasonal model roundup for the autumn. So we'll get something like 8 or 9 models together, long-range models, see what they're all showing for the autumn. So that'll be next Sunday. And then I say 2 weeks today, it's the NAO forecast for the winter of 2017-18. That's always quite an exciting day here at the website. That'll be 2 weeks today. And by the way, if you're waiting for the next Glastonbury update, that will be issued this evening as we begin to pin down the details for Glasgow. Right, that's all for now. Thanks for watching.